started. It's a busy day today with high school graduation and everything. My name is Dick Seebach. You all know me. I'm on the Endowment Committee. And you might know that one of the responsibilities of the Endowment Committee, as well as the Stewardship Ministry team, is to educate the congregation on financial stewardship. So to that end, we have invited Joe Sullivan from the ELCA Foundation to come and talk to us. He's going to describe services that the ELCA Foundation provides for both congregations and individuals. And on a personal note, Joe and I have reacquainted ourselves with each other. About 10 years ago, Joe was working at the University of Minnesota, and he led a fundraising campaign to purchase new uniforms for the University of Minnesota marching band. And since I was an alumnus of the marching band, I was happy to contribute to that effort. So that's how Joe and I met each other. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Joe Sullivan.
Welcome, Joe.
Well, thank you, everybody. I will use this microphone because I understand we're being recorded, but we'll also try to keep this very informal. Again, as Dick said, I'm very happy to be here at Ezekiel and to be working alongside you as your congregation's regional gift planner. I'm based in the Minneapolis-St. Paul region, but I also assist here in western Wisconsin as needed. So before we begin, I want to just give a brief overview of the ELCA Foundation. The Foundation's vision, our big picture vision, is to be a thriving ministry that develops what we call a culture of intentional generosity and financial stewardship, expanding the work of the ELCA. So we serve individuals, we serve congregations and worship communities, synods, the church-wide organizations, the Luther Seminary, the whole network all around. We also tie into work with Lutheran Disaster Relief, Global Refuge, all of the different, if you can think of a Lutheran ministries, we're probably connected to that. And our hope is that the work of the ELCA Foundation engages individuals and organizations in thoughtful planning. So the only thing I'm selling you today is the idea that planning is a good thing. It's to pass on also your philanthropic values and to support ministry passions. Before we begin, does anybody have any burning questions for me? All right, then we're going to launch in. Well, folks, it's Sunday morning, so you didn't think you were going to get away with a little bit of a Bible study. So we're going to start with the biblical roots of this thing we call stewardship. It really begins with that creation story in Genesis, which is, again, describing what was the world like when God created the world. And so we hear each day come, the creation of light and darkness, the creation of the land and the sea. And with each day it said, and then God saw and it was all very good. It's really a story of abundance, there's enough for all, and a story of right relationships. The land and the sea stay here, the night and the darkness. There's also just a fundamental biblical truth that everything belongs to God. And that's really the cornerstone of how we think about the word stewardship. When you hear the word steward, that describes someone who cares for something that belongs to someone else. So when we talk about the creation, we're talking about what belongs to God. The opening of Psalm 24 up there makes it clear, a powerful statement of this. The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it. This gets a little more interesting in Deuteronomy. So Deuteronomy has its naming and calling out kind of peculiar, annoying tendencies of humans to forget God and to begin to imagine that we're the ones who earned our wealth. Let's take a look at this quote in particular. This is Deuteronomy 8. Take care that you do not forget the Lord your God by failing to keep his commandments. When you have eaten your fill and have built the houses and live in them, and when your herds and flocks have multiplied, and when your silver and gold has multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, then do not exalt yourself, forgetting the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. And And here's the zinger right here. Do not say to yourself, my power and might on my own hand have gotten me this wealth. But remember, the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, so that He may confirm His covenant. And it goes on and on. So again, that tendency that we have as humans to think about being the owners. Well, God gave me this and now I own it. No, we are stewards. We are caring for all the resources that flow into our life and will flow on after our life, because everything belongs to God. That's all we have time for in the Old Testament, guys, so we're moving on to the New Testament. So, I mean, this is speedy. We're Sunday morning, we're going. So, in the New Testament, though, as you know, Jesus talks a lot about money, and possessions, and begs the question, why? Jesus and his early followers were acutely aware of the intimate connection between faith and finances. And there are examples all the time of different types of stewards. Two types of stewards. There's the binging bad steward. Again, the person that kind of gets some resources and then the prodigal son. Yeah, exactly. Spends them all and that type of thing. Solomon is another example if you think about that. So excessive consumption, often leading to depression. And then there's the other type of steward beyond the binging bad steward, and that's the burying bad steward. And again, that's not doing anything with God's resources and just returning it. And that's also chastised. That's not my expectation. I expect you to do something with it. So again, of all these different things, when we talk about financial church stewardship, often we're worried most about the binging types of things. But in truth, Jesus told many more stories about the burying bad steward. And probably the most well-known one of that is the Luke 12 parable of the rich fool. And because it's such an important story, we're going to just do a quick review of that. There once was a rich man who had a fertile farm. That farm produced beautiful and abundant crops. So abundant, in fact, the current barn was not adequate to house all his wealth. So he said, I know, I will tear down my barn, I will build bigger ones, and then I'll have enough room to store my surplus and keep all that I have. And I'll sit back and I'll say to myself, self, you've done well, you've got it made and can retire. Take it easy and have the time of your life. But then God said to him, you fool, this very night, you will die this very night. Now who will get all of your grain and wealth? So we know that story very well. What did you observe about the farmer's legacy plan?
Didn't have one.
Didn't have one, excellent. Anything else? Well, you got the big one right off the top. He prepared only for himself. So I guess he did some preparation, but not a legacy plan. He did not prepare for his own death or how his assets would be dispersed. He did a great job collecting them. No mention in that story about generosity or charity. And stewardship for this particular farmer was not a lifestyle. So again, it's a change in his orientation, and probably recognizes that Deuteronomy story. He kind of forgot who the owner was. He kind of thought he was the owner. He's not an owner. He's a steward of the resources God brought. We're going to shift a little bit here to how we think about planned giving at the congregation level. And planned giving is really a piece of what we would call balanced stewardship. So again, three-legged stool is our image. And most congregations are pretty solid on at least two of these and working on the third leg. But again, if you're used to milking a cow, you know that if you had all three legs and they're screwed into the bench really strongly, that's going to be a real stable milking stool for you. The first one on the left there says ongoing giving. And again, as you see there, the offering that we give on a weekly basis is how many people give, whether it's through the plate or electronic. And it's incredibly important because that fuels the ongoing operations of Ezekiel Lutheran Church. So the weekly offering is incredibly important. Every once in a while, there'll be a need for major giving. You know, it could be a new ministry that you want to start out that we need a sum of money to really kick off. Or a furnace repair. This is very common. Now we have to replace a big piece of the furnace, and it's a $20,000 investment. So many times there we say, folks, can people help us with this capital, a small capital campaign or a bigger one? And those pledges tend to be a couple of years, and as the dollar sign indicates, they usually are a little bit more. So the third leg there is really the plan giving. And that is things that would typically be such things as bequests, or things that can be 5 years on and longer. So this is something that's a change that's going to happen usually involving assets, a transfer that's going to happen to Ezekiel or to an institution like the ELCA Foundation, who I represent. Many times these are some of the largest gifts that people have in their lifetime, but not always, because it also includes stock gifts, and those can be, we'll talk about those in a second. So even though we kind of separate them, there's a little bit of blending in truth between these. It's also true that sometimes with a capital campaign, a person says, I can give you this much right now, but I will also pledge this much with a planned gift out in the future. It'll be in my will, you can count it now, but I can't do any more than that. And that is wonderful. Again, anything that helps Ezekiel plan is a really, really good thing. So again, what is a planned gift? It is any gift realized either now or in the future, like stocks, could be now. It requires more preparation than writing a check. So donating stocks to Ezekiel is a little bit more work than writing a check, but it has some really strong advantages. An example of that is if a person gives stock, if they were to sell that stock, they bought it at a certain value, what's called the base. If they go to sell that stock, whatever financial gain they've made, the IRS would tax you on that. It would be a capital gains, and depending on your tax bracket, it could be a substantial amount of money. However, if you donate the stock directly to a charity like Ezekiel, the individual does not pay the capital gains on the stock. So you're able to do that, you're able to avoid the tax. Ezekiel gets the full value of the stock donation. It's a tiny bit more work than writing out the check, but it can be really a smart way to give. As I mentioned before, the three-legged stool, the tithing annual fund, the capital major giving, and the plan giving, they're all essential aspects of healthy three-legged stool stewardship. And there are some big picture statistics also that are interesting when it comes to legacy. The first two are kind of bad news. The good news comes in the last two. We like to think we're a tithing kind of denomination, and we aim at 10%, but if you actually look across the ELCA, tithing unfortunately averages right now closer to 2.3%, not 10. And this is another sad statistic, about 26 Lutherans pass away every day. The loss of even one generous tither can seriously impact the operating budget of a congregation. That is the bad news. I don't want to leave you with bad news. Here's the good news. It's been scientifically proven that there is a neural link between generosity and happiness. So people have studied this. There's tons of data on this, but the people who are the most generous also peg up being the most happy. So there's something about it. We could probably project that farmer, as hard-earning as he was, might have not been maybe as happy as he could have been. And
is that easier to read with the lights off?
I think so. Thank you. Good idea. Yes. I have to update the statistic because it's now 2025, but at least 5 years ago, in the middle of that pandemic, members of the ELCA gave over $1.7 billion, that's not a typo, B, in regular offerings to the three expressions of the ELCA, to congregations, synods, and church-wide organizations. So you hear a lot about, well, people are not as generous as they used to be. And while that might be true in the macro, when you look at our denomination, we can be very proud of what Lutherans are doing here at Ezekiel, in your synod, across the country, and all of those things we provide, all of the disaster relief, all of the Lutheran social service. It's remarkable. It is remarkable. And I know that you in the room are probably generous people. You're a big piece of that. So you might be thinking, well, thanks, those are nice stories, and nice, interesting statistics, but what are the next steps? Well, we begin by planning. We first think about our family, and that's me and my family there on the left. So my son Jack is right next to me on the left. His wife is right in front of me. And by the way, I had to tell Dick, but we are expecting our first grandchild in August. So we're kind of, yes, exactly. We're kind of all beaming. My youngest is Louise. Louise is right in front, and my wife Karen is over on the left. So we always start any discussion about planning, legacy planning, with our family. What is our family, and how do we have resources that will help them in the future? And my family is in growth mode right now. Also, our beloved churches and charities. So we have our photo of Ezekiel there. We wondered sometimes, how do I balance between the two? How do I make sure I have enough for the family and have enough for different charities? So we create something called a charitable gift plan, and I can help you with that. A charitable gift plan is part of your overall will or estate plan. So what are the elements of a good charitable gift plan? It should be clear in its intent and easily implemented by your heirs. Clear in its intent means it either involves a number or a percentage, but it's super clear to people about how much. Not just say, make sure when I pass that you're generous to Ezekiel. Your version of generous and your heir's version of generous may be wildly different. So being specific in a written plan makes it super clear to all parties of what your intention was. Easily implemented. It shouldn't be so complicated that your heirs are trying to figure out what did mom mean when she put this down? What was dad trying to tell me? And it should really answer this question. What do you hope to accomplish with your giving that would be meaningful to you? What impact do you want to have? It should decrease confusion and frustration after your pass. It should give those you love the time to focus on rest and recovery and remembrance. So again, you talk to people where the plan has been really well prepared and everything's delineated. People say, this was such a gift that my parents gave me by delineating all this in advance. And it should facilitate your charitable intent. It should accomplish with your resources. It should fund the things that really are important to you. Again, that could be Ezekiel, it could be the American Cancer Society, it could be the University of Minnesota or UW Wisconsin. And it should reflect your life, your financial, your charitable priorities. One of my colleagues has this quote, which I think is great. A charitable gift plan is really a thank you note to your past, to the Lutheran leaders and the ministries that have been important to you, and a love letter to your future. So again, we have people that went to Camp Wapagasset, and they may say, Lutheran Bible Camp shaped who I am and who I was, or I was a counselor there and I became a leader there, and I want to do a little something in my plan for the camp. Or they might say, I was down and out for a while. Lutheran Social Services stepped in. I will never forget that. I want to do something in my plan for that. And again, a love letter to the future. It tells your heirs, this is my story. This is why Ezekiel's been so important to me, and this is why there's a gift in my future, in my charitable gift plan. Now at this point in the presentation, I need to just recognize we have a lot of diversity in the room. And by this I mean we have young people, middle-aged, more seasoned members like me, and our individual financial situations are very different and unique. And so, some of us have kids and grandkids, some do not. Because of these types of diverse things, I'll be providing just an overview here of some of the tools or the giving vehicles that can facilitate your giving plan. Now, these are we call them vehicles, but they're kind of things that can help you put a charitable plan together. And so some of these might fit your situation. Like a glove, you go, oh, that's me, that's what I have. And other ones that you hear about, you go, that's really, I don't have anything like that, or I'm not interested in doing something like that. So let's just fly into a few of these. The gifts of stocks and securities. I mentioned those before, so I won't belabor it, but many people, instead of giving out of their income, giving out of their checkbook, later in life, especially after retirement, they say, you know, I can let go of some of my stocks, and I can use the stocks to do the generosity that I would be doing normally. And I'm going to start using those things later in life. Direct bequests. This is, again, we have a very simple one-page form, and some people say, you know, I need my resources now until I pass away, but upon my passing, Ezekiel can have whatever it is, $10,000, $25,000. I will put that in writing, and again, that just becomes part of your plan. It's very clear then to your heirs. That's one of the first things that is resolved in the estate. For some people, a will is all they need. For other people, they go with a living trust. Again, we can help you determine which is the best for you. But if you do not have a will or a living trust, I would encourage you to work on one, and I can give you a variety of free will services if cost is an issue. Otherwise, we can help you again with the ELCA Foundation to do that. But if you do not have a will, the state will make decisions for you. And I don't know if you want the state of Wisconsin or the state of Minnesota to be making decisions on your giving. So, donor advised funds. You'll hear people talk about these sometimes. The acronym is DAF, and they're not saying daft. But donor advised funds, think of this as a charitable savings account. And so what a donor does is it takes an asset. It could be stock, it could be cash, and they convert that asset and they create with either us or Fidelity, any of the other different charitable, any of the other financial organizations have what they call a donor advised fund. Again, with the ELCA, you can set this up at $10,000. And basically it's a charitable savings account, and then what you decide is later on you start to use that to make your charitable gifts in a given year. And so you might sell an asset, put it into your donor advised funds, and then you as the donor advise that fund, you advise that savings account, charitable savings account, to make distributions. So in a given year it might be this much to Ezekiel and this much to all of these other different charities. This is a great way, again, to work with your financial planner to create this, and then the flexibility is wonderful. Qualified charitable distribution. How many people have IRAs, individual retirement accounts, in the room? Yes. So this is, again, a wonderful way your IRA can become a really powerful way to make charitable gifts. If you were north of age 73, there becomes some advantages about doing that because there's something called the required minimum distribution. And some people, between their Social Security and pension, and just maybe living real modestly, they're like, I don't really need my RMD, my required minimum distribution each year. Many people are using that, and they're doing the one-time distribution to their churches or to charities. Later, though, in life, the IRAs, once you pass, if those go to your children, the kids will pay the IRS tax on that IRA as an inherited IRA is high. And could push your kids or grandkids into a higher tax bracket. The other thing about that IRA there is the kids, through that inherited IRA, have 10 years to spend that money down. And many times people don't realize that gift to the kids might be $500,000, and the kids have to spend it in 10 years. Statistically, one of the things that's rather shocking is those tend to be spent in far quicker than 10 years, like several years, and the money's gone. So again, you might say, well, is that what I want to do with my resources or not? There are things called charitable remainder trusts. So what this is you create this remainder trust, you name a charity as the beneficiary at the end of the trust period. Those trusts can be structured for up to 20 years. And again, you can name your spouse as the beneficiary for that first, and at the end, again, at the end of the term, so this is paying payments. Let me back up for a second. With all of these, with we can split this list into three things. Ways that you can give now, ways that you can give later, and ways that you can give and receive income. So give now, give later, give and receive income. The give now would be those things like the gift of stock. The give later would be something like a bequest in your estate. And the things that we're seeing now on the right-hand side, the give and receive income, that would be a charitable remainder trust. That income can go to you or to one of your loved ones. Similarly, that charitable gift annuity, annuities are something that make a fixed payment over time. So many times people will create a charitable gift annuity through the ELCA Foundation. And they'll do this because they'll say, I'm looking at the economy right now, I'm nervous, I'm just recently retired, I don't know my cash flow yet, I'd like to do more for Ezekiel, but I need to have an income stream. We can do an illustration for you with a charitable gift annuity. You give a certain amount of money, say $10,000 or $25,000, and we can show you what a distribution would look like to you, and it could be on a quarterly, or semi-annually, twice a year, or once a year basis. But it's a way that, and again, ultimately, that gift, a portion of that gift comes back to the charity of your choice. Gifts of real estate and other complex assets. Sometimes people have a cabin and they offer it to the kids, and the kids are like, we don't want it. Too much maintenance, too much work. So sometimes the ELCA Foundation will accept those cabins and other complex assets. A piece of land, a grain is actually something we take. Occasionally collections. So sometimes in our collection that maybe has value, we don't keep those kind of personal property items. Grand pianos are another one. A person wants to give a $50,000 Steinway piano to Ezekiel. We might, if we needed the piano, that would be one thing, but if not, we would tell the donor, we're going to sell the piano, but the proceeds can be directed to where you'd like. Where would you like them? And a lot of times, again, being a musician myself, I would say, well, I'll give you the piano, you sell it, and please put it all to the music program at Ezekiel. Then at least that's how I want to see my gift used. So those kind of designations can be a way that you can convert a resource or an asset that you have now into something that's really powerful. A memorial endowment is a way to make a gift in your will, and you can create it in honor of somebody, or it could be something, my mom left an inheritance for us, and we took the first $25,000 and created a memorial in her name. And it's an ongoing scholarship that pays 4% of that 25% each year, and it does that in perpetuity. So it's a wonderful way to honor a life of somebody. We did something similar for my niece with the Y. And the life insurance policies. Many times people have paid on a life insurance policy. They reach an older age and they say, this isn't really something that I need between other assets. I'm not really going to need this. People are now beginning to gift the fully paid life insurance policy to a charity like Ezekiel or to the ELCA Foundation. So lots and lots of possible tools, as you can see. Some of these fit your situation, maybe like a glove. Some it's like, maybe not. My point is there is no cookie cutter charitable gift plan that I can just drop in front of you. So we custom build every plan, and we do that donor by donor. So Dick, this is the part where I'm going to have you help me out. If everybody could get one of those.
One per family or one per?
One per person is great, yeah, you bet. Oops. So as Dick's handing this out, as complicated as this sheet of paper looks, and I know it can look intimidating, just remember, split it into three ways. Ways you can give now, ways you can give later, ways you can give and receive some income. So those are the three, all of those different things fit into one of those three buckets. And we have the capacity at the ELCA Foundation to meet you with any one of those options on there. So when you think of stewardship beyond your checkbook, all kinds of opportunities. When you start thinking about utilizing assets, there's many ways to make a positive impact, sometimes the gift of a lifetime. So it's something that's joyful, it's exciting. A lot of times people are like, oh, this is going to be such a difficult or tough conversation to have. But it really isn't. It ends up being more like, how do I prioritize what I want to do with the assets in my life? How do we do that? Well, I'm going to offer, because everyone's financial situation is unique, the next step is really developing a charitable gift plan. And so we would meet and we would discuss, look for a place that's quiet and where we can focus, and also because our conversation is confidential and I respect your privacy. When we do meet, we're going to discuss the 3 F's. The first one is your family. We'll talk about your generosity toward those you love and any special conditions or concerns or needs that exist that might arise in the future. The next thing we'll talk about is your faith journey. I'll ask you about one of the ministries and the charitable organizations that mean the most to you. I'll first talk to you about your Lutheran faith journey. So that again might be, I want to tell you about how involved they've been in Ezekiel, but it could include, again, the Lutheran social services, the camps, a special memory for the seminaries program or the Future Fund for Leaders, which supports deacons and youth ministers. And then the final F word, family, faith, and your finances. At a fairly high level, I'll talk to you about completing an asset inventory. It helps me understand what you have to work with in terms of assets, and that can help me give some advice to you in terms of what might be a tax-efficient asset to give, like we talked about the IRAs or the stocks, or if there's a unique thing in there, a piece of property, some land, we can talk about that as well. After we're done, I produce a written piece for you, a step-by-step instructions detailing action items that you would need to achieve your legacy and charitable goals. That's a concise, personalized gift plan illustration to show you the flow of your legacy discussions and decisions. That would be something you take to your legal or financial or tax advisor. So I'm not a CPA, I'm not an estate planning attorney, I'm a gift planner. But what we're able to do is give you an advice and plan for how you could consider all of the charities in your life, starting with the Lutherans, but also including some of those other charitable entities. And you take that plan to your advisor. Because see, I will only see a tiny bit of your financial history, the assets you have. Your legal and financial advisors, they see the picture in much more detail. They can look at the plan I've developed and they can say, yeah, he's right about this. This other piece, he doesn't realize that you have this, but this is an avenue. So it broadens the discussion. That one-on-one meeting takes some time. It probably takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then the detailed plan comes back. Why are we doing this? Why is gift planning happening with the ELCA Foundation? Here's our overarching goal. We would like every member of the ELCA to consider creating a gift plan for ministry. I'd like you to think about the ministries that have been important to you, starting with Ezekiel, but looking broadly, and then put something together. Regional gift planners like myself are beneficiary neutral. So if you say, Joe, I know you presented this at Ezekiel, but I'm not going to probably give a gift to Ezekiel for various reasons. But I do want to talk to you about other areas. We're not trying to sell or promote anything other than planning. So I don't work on commission or anything like that. All of these services we've been talking about are provided at no cost. So every time we meet and the plan itself, it's provided free of charge. That is our ministry in the ELCA Foundation. And we only go where we're invited. So I'm not going to call you and badger you, but I will ask you to do one thing. So, Dick, I need you again. If you could pass that out. Can I have one too? You have those nifty notebooks in front of you with a pen. And if you wouldn't mind, Dick is just handing out a contact form. And I'll go over this in just a second. As Dick's finishing it, I'll see if anybody wants to try to answer that question that's up there. What's the worst mistake that a person can make in the planning process? Anyone want to take a guess?
No plan.
Not have a plan?
Talking to your kids.
Yeah. Procrastination could be it. We'll do it tomorrow. And then you don't. Or not planning at all. And there's the note up there says procrastination workshop has been postponed. On this sheet, if you wouldn't mind, it would be great for me to be able to show my boss that we talked to a whole bunch of Lutherans at Ezekiel this weekend about charitable gift planning. And if you look at the bottom there where it says, I'm interested in making an impact on the church and world, let's stay in touch. If you are like, this was interesting, Joe, but I don't want to meet with you and I don't want a ton of information, check the very bottom one that says, I'm not ready to meet right now, but I'd like to receive insights, the quarterly newsletter, I can stay up to touch on stuff. This will give you additional resources, and if you're a reader or a long-term planner, you might say, that's where I'm comfortable right now. I just want to get information, don't bug me. Fine, absolutely great. The next one says, I've already included ministry in my will or estate plan, and I'd like to tell you about it. Wonderful. And you can do that and keep it entirely anonymous as well. That includes with Ezekiel. You can say to me, what I will tell Ezekiel's leadership is, you have a new planned gift. I can't give you any more details than that from the donor, but you have one more planned gift that you can count on. And that will make the leaders here feel great. The second bullet there says about a particular thing that we talked about. If you said, like, that donor advice fund sounds super interesting to me, or I have your IRAs, and I want to do that. I want to do that qualified distribution. And then the last bullet there says, all of the above, I don't know where to start. That's great. That's perfectly honest. And if you are ready to meet, wonderful. We'll schedule a meeting, and again, that will be on your timetable. I'll come out to where you feel comfortable, where we can talk, but like I say, we'll probably need about an hour and a half. And then if you have any thoughts or questions that you want me to follow up with individually, just put those at the very bottom. Yes?
Do you have anything with your name on it that people
I
can
certainly
get
do,
with
you bet.
them if they want to contact you?
Absolutely. Actually, let's do this. Again, today for some reason, I just forgot. I left all my business cards in my car. Rather than run out, let's do this. My contact information is right up there. Write it inside that handy dandy notebook that you got. Well, let's see. Here we go. You do? Yes. Before we wrap up, does anybody have any questions or stories or anecdotes that they want to share with the group? Dick, I think I'll turn the microphone back to you.
Okay, Joe, thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
And I've learned a few things today about this, and I'm sure you have too. And thank you.
Absolutely. Nothing wrong with